Keanu vomits in court as he reveals, Diddy forced me to bathe in his waste. Nobody in the courtroom expected this. Not even the prosecution. Keanu Reeves walked to the stand slowly in a dark suit, no expression on his face. The room was quiet. Cameras weren't allowed, but every journalist in that courtroom leaned forward. Something was about to happen. Everyone felt it. What they got was worse than anyone imagined. Keanu didn't cry. He didn't raise his voice. But what he said made the air feel heavier. He started with a dinner invitation. It was 2014, he said. I was filming in Los Angeles. I got a message through a friend. No agent, no publicist. Just a name, Diddy, and a sentence. Private dinner, come alone. Keanu paused. At the time, I thought it was just one of those Hollywood things. An A-list dinner, maybe a project pitch, maybe networking. But it wasn't that. He arrived at a private estate in the Malibu Hills. Not a studio, not a hotel. A large, isolated house with no sign outside. No valet, Keanu said. No photographers, just one security guard. The guard took his phone and ID. No devices, the guard said. Strict rules. Inside, Keanu described something that felt more like a movie set than a home. There were candles everywhere, he said. No staff, no waiters, just Diddy, standing alone at the far end of a long table. The room was dim. There was soft, ambient music coming from hidden speakers. The floor had strange symbols, not demonic, but deliberate. I thought maybe he was trying to be artistic, Keanu told the court. I was wrong. They sat down. Diddy poured wine. No small talk, no script. He started talking about legacy, Keanu said, about how Hollywood was a game, and if you wanted to stop playing, you had to start owning. Keanu asked what he meant. He said it wasn't about movies, it was about trust, about proving you could keep a secret. That's when things shifted. Diddy reached under the table and pulled out a black folder. Keanu opened it. No scripts, no contracts, just one sheet of paper. A loyalty agreement. 7 points. He read them aloud in court. Trust the process even in the dark. Do not speak about this project. You will be reborn in the water. Do not ask questions. Your reward is legacy, not money. You must cleanse. Loyalty is forever. The courtroom was silent. Keanu looked at Diddy and asked, "Is this for a film?" Diddy smiled. "You ask too many questions. That's why I invited you." What followed, Keanu said, wasn't a pitch. It was a test. He kept saying, "This isn't acting. This is transformation," over and over, like a mantra. Then Diddy stood up and placed a small black stone on the table. He told me to take it with me, to bring it to the bath. Keanu frowned when recalling that part. I asked him, "What bath?" Diddy smiled again. "It's the second part of the agreement." He told Keanu the bath would be filled after Diddy left, that he would enter it alone, no audience, no cameras. He said his assistant would prepare the water, Keanu said, that it would hold memory. Diddy then said something that made Keanu pause. "We're all connected through water," he whispered. "That's why it matters who you bathe after." At first, Keanu thought it was a metaphor. Then Diddy leaned in and said, "I bathed. Now it's your turn." He told Keanu that every major actor, musician, or media figure who had made it had gone through it. I thought he was joking, Keanu said, but his face didn't change. Diddy asked again, "Are you in?" Keanu stood up. I told him, "Thank you for the dinner." I left. As he walked out, Diddy called after him, "You'll come back. They all do." The courtroom stayed still, even the jury, not a cough, not a shuffle. Keanu continued, "When I got to my car, my phone was waiting inside a black envelope. There was a card inside. It said, 'Loyalty is tested in water,' in gold letters." He didn't respond. He never went back. But things changed. At first it was subtle. Phone calls went unanswered. Meetings were postponed, then canceled. Projects fell through without reason. One studio sent him a final script, then ghosted him. Another dropped him days before filming began, citing unexpected funding issues. He brushed it off at first. "Hollywood's chaotic," he said. But then came the calls. Block numbers 3:17 a.m., always that time. I'd pick up, silence, then one deep breath, then nothing. It happened 6 times over 2 weeks. He began noticing parked black cars outside his home, same model, same license plate. Once he found a black envelope on his windshield. Inside a single paper. Unfinished rituals have consequences, signed S. No watermark, no return address. Keanu said he never spoke about it. He told his agent who gave him advice, if you didn't sign anything, forget it happened. But his agent added something else. There are people who don't like hearing no, especially if they think you're one of them. The courtroom scribbled furiously. Keanu's voice stayed calm. He tried to move on. He signed to an indie film. The budget was small but promising, but the money vanished days before the shoot. Investors pulled out. A role in a major franchise was quietly recast. No announcement, just gone, Keanu said. Then came the moment that changed everything. He was at a charity event in Beverly Hills. Black tie, red carpet, industry giants. He was standing alone holding a drink when a woman he'd once co-starred with walked past. She leaned in close. You said no, didn't you? Then she smiled and walked away. That's when it hit me, Keanu said. This wasn't a dinner, it was a test. From then on, Keanu began noticing patterns. Actors who had never been known, suddenly everywhere. Musicians with one hit now headlining world tours. And always a connection to Diddy. Keanu described a charity campaign he had helped organize. 4 months after the dinner, he was removed from it. No warning, just an email. The board has decided to move in a different direction. But the campaign had received a large anonymous donation days earlier. The new face of the charity. An actor Keanu had once seen leaving Diddy's penthouse. It wasn't about blacklisting, Keanu said. It was about quiet erasure. Another time he was in a studio pitch meeting when the executive got a call mid-sentence. They apologized, stood up and said, we'll reschedule. No follow-up. I never heard from them again, Keanu said. Then he described the second meeting with Diddy. Weeks after the dinner, no invite, just a message from a mutual acquaintance. If you want to understand the system, it read, come see the vault. Keanu didn't want to, but curiosity won. He was taken to a penthouse. But inside it wasn't a living space. It looked like a control room, Keanu said. No windows, just drawers, rows of them. Diddy showed him the drawers, each labeled with a name. Keanu didn't open any. You don't need to, Diddy said. Everybody's got leverage, I just keep mine neat. Then he said something else. If you'd gone into the bath, you'd have your drawer too. The courtroom murmured. Keanu told the court I realized what he meant. These drawers weren't symbolic, they were real. Filled with NDAs, contracts, photos, insurance. Then Diddy made him one final offer. You don't have to say anything, he said, just be there. We'll make note of the silence. Keanu declined. As he left, Diddy whispered, silence is loyalty. Keanu stepped off the stand after those words. The courtroom was different now. The jury was staring. One member had tears in their eyes. Reporters scribbled with shaking hands. The judge called for recess. Keanu didn't look back. After Keanu left the courtroom, silence lingered. The judge had called for a short break, but no one moved. Reporters whispered in corners. The defense team looked shaken. Keanu sat alone outside the chamber, head bowed. He wasn't proud, he wasn't angry, just tired. When the trial resumed, he was asked to continue. This time, the questions came from the prosecution. Mr. Reeves, the attorney, began. Did you ever speak about this incident before the subpoena? Keanu nodded slowly. Once, with someone I trusted. He told the court about a phone call he received in 2020. It was from an actor he had worked with in the past. The man didn't leave a name on the message, just a sentence. I saw what happened to you. It happened to me too. They met once in private. He told me Keanu said that he didn't choose to be involved. He was cornered. He signed something he didn't understand, and then it was too late. The actor had tried to leave the system, but it didn't let go. He said the only reason he was still working was because they had something on him, Keanu added. He didn't say what. The prosecution asked, did you agree to go public together? Keanu hesitated. I told him I would, but I backed out. I deleted the message. I was scared. He looked down. I'm not proud of that. The courtroom stayed quiet. I kept asking myself, what if no one believes me, he said. But when I heard other witnesses like Cassie and I heard the recordings, I realized. This wasn't just a weird dinner. It wasn't just me. He paused again. There was a system, a quiet one, and I had seen it with my own eyes. The prosecution asked him about the phrase, "You'll come back." They always come back. Keanu nodded. I've heard it before, in different ways, from different people. He explained that there were two kinds of people at those dinners, those who said yes, and those who disappeared. Sometimes disappeared just meant being forgotten. Other times, it meant more. He remembered a fellow actor who had starred in several action movies in the early 2000s. One day the man was everywhere. The next he was gone. No scandal, no news. He just stopped showing up. The rumor he had refused Diddy's offer. They said he argued with Diddy's team, that he mocked the ritual, then he vanished. Keanu never saw him again. The prosecution asked about the bathwater. Was there ever an actual bath, or do you believe it was symbolic? Keanu answered carefully. I never saw it. I never entered it. But I don't think it was symbolic. I think it was very real. The audience stirred. I think it was part of a test, something physical, something meant to shame you and bind you. The attorney leaned forward. Do you know of anyone who took the bath? Keanu didn't answer right away. I can't name anyone, he said, but I saw changes in people, and I heard whispers. He described how some actors started wearing a specific black stone on a chain just like the one Diddy had given him. I saw that stone on the wrist of a new actor once. He was doing a press junket. I froze. The jury listened carefully. It's like a mark, Keanu continued, not visible to the public, but visible to them. The prosecution then shifted the topic. Tell us about the vault. Was it a physical location? Keanu nodded. It was a room, no windows, no decor, just drawers. Each drawer had a name. He never opened one, but the names were real. I saw names I recognized, directors, musicians, even journalists. The prosecution pressed, do you believe those drawers contained leverage? Keanu answered without hesitation. Yes. He described Diddy's tone that night, calm, almost bored, like he wasn't threatening, just stating facts. He told me, if you had gone into the bath, your drawer would be here too. The attorney asked, what do you think would have happened if you had gone in? Keanu shook his head. I don't know, but I think I would have been owned. Those words echoed. Owned. The prosecution paused before asking the next question. Mr. Reeves, in your opinion, was this a form of coercion? Keanu looked straight ahead. Yes, but it was dressed up as opportunity. He said Diddy never forced anything. He never raised his voice. He never threatened. He just made it clear either you play the game or you don't play at all. And the ones who didn't, they're gone or erased. The prosecution then asked about the connection to Cassie Ventura's testimony. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment before answering. I wasn't ready to speak, not until I heard her cry on that stand. He remembered her describing strange rituals, dark rooms, and the pressure to submit. Everything she said matched the feeling I had that night. That's when he knew. The stories weren't isolated. They were parts of the same machine. The attorney asked, so why now? Why speak up now? Keanu exhaled. Because I'm done. I don't want revenge. I just want clarity. I want to walk away with a clean soul. He said he was retiring from the industry. And if I don't say this now, I'll carry it forever. Then he told the court about one final moment. A producer he once trusted pulled him aside at a charity event 2 years ago. The producer whispered, don't be the guy who takes the fall for exposing the club. That phrase, the club, was something Keanu had heard before. Not officially, but always whispered, like a warning. Now he understood what it meant. The vault, the drawers, the bath, the stone, the silence, all part of one structure, one system, one club. As he finished his testimony, the defense team tried to object. Hearsay, they said, irrelevant. But the judge overruled. The jury was focused, every word was landing. Keanu turned to the judge and made one final statement. "I would rather disappear than be remembered for dipping my feet in that water." He looked at Diddy, who sat with clenched jaw and dropped eyes. "That's the real cost of legacy, and I'm not paying it." The courtroom held its breath. Keanu stepped down. And everything changed. After Keanu's testimony, the trial room shifted. The atmosphere was different. The usual buzz around celebrity cases was gone. No smirks, no distractions, only silence and the sound of something cracking beneath Diddy's public image. Outside, media outlets exploded. Reporters couldn't record video in the courtroom, but they didn't need to. Keanu's words traveled faster than any live stream. "I would rather disappear than be remembered for dipping my feet in that water." That quote made headlines. But inside court, the pressure was just starting. The prosecution began to build connections. They brought in an independent investigator named Aiden Mars, a former FBI analyst turned media forensics consultant. He had spent 2 years examining trends in career declines, erased credits, and retracted deals, especially within music and film. He showed a timeline. Keanu's projects post-2014 greenlit, then pulled. Cast, then replaced. Campaigns, then scrubbed. None of it made sense on paper. But when mapped against a private guest list, obtained from leaked emails tied to Diddy's security firm, Mars explained a pattern emerged. Those who attended the dinners often experienced sudden changes. Some skyrocketed, others vanished quietly. The courtroom watched as names were redacted on screen, but the pattern was clear. If you accepted the offer, things opened up. If you declined, Mars pointed to a long string of canceled deals. This is what happened. One juror leaned forward and whispered, "This is real." Next, the prosecution introduced a sealed letter. Found during a raid at one of Diddy's properties, it was unsigned, but matched a known assistant's handwriting. The subject line read, "Vault intake, next candidates." The names were blurred, but one caught the jury's attention. Keanu Reeves, status observed pending loyalty confirmation. Keanu didn't blink when the letter was read aloud. "They monitored me," he said calmly, "even after I left." The assistant, who remained unnamed for protection, had also submitted a short affidavit. One line stood out. "Those who enter the Bathe are protected. Those who don't become problems." That was the point where Diddy's lawyers requested a private recess. When court resumed, Diddy didn't speak. He didn't even look at the judge. The prosecution then introduced digital evidence emails between producers using vague language. But one thread titled "Handled" referenced Keanu directly. "He's not on board. Pull the plug." What project it was, no one could confirm. But the timestamp matched a week before Keanu's sudden removal from a major franchise. Diddy's team objected again, claiming coincidence, misinterpretation. But the prosecution pressed on. They called another witness, a rising actor who asked to remain anonymous. He appeared behind a screen, voice altered. He said he had taken the bath. "It wasn't violent. No one forced me. But you know when someone's testing you, it's like if you want in, you do this." The courtroom listened closely. "There was a camera," he added. "I didn't ask questions, I just went along with it." He paused before saying, "I don't know where the footage is, but I think it's stored, just in case." The prosecution asked if he'd seen the vault. "Yes," he replied. "I was told everyone had a drawer. Mine was added the same night." Then he was asked about Keanu. "Did you know of anyone who refused?" The witness hesitated. There were whispers. Reeves was the only one people talked about with a kind of guilt. Why guilt? Because he didn't break, and we did. The courtroom froze again. One juror wiped away a tear. Outside, the story was everywhere. Social media exploded. The bath, the vault, and loyalty in water trended globally. But back inside court, the defense had a new strategy. They tried to frame Keanu's experience as paranoia. They said it was all coincidence, career swings, industry politics. But it didn't hold. The final blow that day came when the prosecution played a short voice memo recovered from Diddy's assistant's email backup. The recording was grainy. Diddy's voice could be heard. The bath isn't about water, it's about obedience. If he won't do that, he won't do anything. That sentence destroyed the defense's position. Keanu didn't flinch. Diddy, however, clenched his jaw. The judge called for another break, and in the hallway a moment went viral. Keanu exited the courtroom to a wall of reporters. One asked, "Do you regret not going through with it?" Keanu stopped. He didn't speak right away. Then no, because I'd rather lose everything than lose myself. That clip aired on every major outlet. It was replayed in slow motion, paused, quoted, framed as the moral spine of the case. Back in court, the prosecution wasn't done. They hinted at more witnesses, more names, but the key had already been delivered. The jury wasn't just hearing a story. They were watching the structure of silence break apart one layer at a time. And at the center of it all was Keanu Reeves. Still calm, still standing, and no longer alone. By the end of that week, Keanu's testimony had changed the course of the trial. But it wasn't just the jury who was paying attention. Outside the courtroom, something unexpected began to happen. Other celebrities, some quietly, some through anonymous statements, started reaching out to the prosecution. Not to testify publicly, but to confirm one thing. He's telling the truth. Inside the court, the next witness was called. Her name was Marla Jennings, a former PR executive who had worked with high-level clients for over 20 years. She looked tired, but determined. She took the stand and said only one thing at first. "I signed 6 NDAs for Diddy. I burned through 3 phones for him, but nothing disturbed me more than the day I saw the vault." The courtroom tensed. Marla explained how she had been invited to a private strategy meeting at a high-rise office in Century City. No logos, no listed owner. Just a floor with no windows, cold lighting, and 3 desks. Diddy was already inside. He was calm like always. He showed me what he called his legacy system, drawers, all labeled. The prosecution asked, "Did you see any names?" "Yes, I saw Keanu's." But more disturbing was what she saw beneath the drawers. A locked cabinet, it had a code pad. I asked what was inside. Diddy told her. Insurance for everyone. Marla said he didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. When you work in PR at my level, you know what that means. It means material no one wants seen, evidence, leverage. The prosecution asked, did he ever threaten to use it? Marla shook her head. He didn't need to. Everyone understood what silence cost and what it bought. Then she said something that caught everyone off guard. Diddy had a phrase he used often. The ones who stay dry disappear. The courtroom murmured. Marla clarified. Dry meant those who didn't enter the bath, who didn't follow the ritual. The judge warned the gallery to stay quiet. The prosecution asked about the bath itself. Marla paused. There was a pool, she said, not a normal one, indoor, hidden. He called it the chamber. She said she never witnessed anyone use it, but she saw towels lined up, cameras overhead, and a schedule written in symbols. When asked if she believed Keanu, her answer was simple. He described it perfectly, down to the candle placements. The defense cross-examined her aggressively. Did you ever see Mr. Combs force anyone into this bath? No, she replied, but force isn't always physical. She went quiet, then added, it was cultural, institutional. If you didn't participate, you weren't blacklisted, you were erased. Her words echoed Keanu's, and the phrase started to stick. Erased, not loudly, quietly. The prosecution then presented another document, a scanned invite from 2015. It was identical in format to the one Keanu described. Plain black card, no logo, just coordinates. One sentence at the bottom. Loyalty is tested in water. It had been recovered from a musician's storage unit during a civil asset seizure. The musician was now deceased. When shown the card, Keanu nodded. That's it, he said. That's the exact one. The courtroom sat still. Then came the witness the press had been whispering about all week. A-list director, name withheld by court order. He entered through the side door, face hidden by a privacy screen, voice digitally altered. His statement was brief but devastating. I went once, just once. I saw things that scared me. I left. My 3-picture deal got shelved the same month. No explanation. He paused. I tried to warn others, quietly, but people just smiled and told me not to be that guy. He said he recognized Keanu's black stone when he first spoke about it in interviews. That stone wasn't decoration, it was a signal. Then the director said something that made even the judge pause. There's a name for the bath. Internally they call it the reset, because after that you're not the same. When asked why he never spoke sooner, the director said, "Because I still wanted to work, and because I didn't think anyone would believe me until Keanu said it first." As he left the stand, the court was tense again. Diddy sat stone-faced, his lawyers whispering. The public support from his usual celebrity allies gone, vanished overnight. Some had even deleted old photos with him. Later that afternoon, a surprise development. A sealed folder was submitted into evidence. It contained 3 items: a photo of the bath chamber taken secretly, a ledger with timestamps and initials, a transcript of a private conversation between Diddy and an unnamed associate. One line in the transcript silenced the courtroom. "If they won't take the bath, we lock the drawer anyway. They just won't know what's inside." Keanu lowered his head as it was read aloud. For the first time during the trial, Diddy's lead attorney seemed visibly shaken. He asked for an immediate recess. It was denied. Instead, the judge made a rare announcement. "This courtroom is now under federal review. All exhibits will be sealed, pending further investigation." And just like that, it wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It was about everyone who had ever touched the vault. By now, the case had evolved into something much bigger than Sean "Diddy" Combs. It was no longer just about one man's behavior behind closed doors. It was about a system, a machine, and how many people had helped keep it running. Day 17 of the trial opened with a different kind of witness. Jordan Lane, a retired security contractor, took the stand. He once worked for a private firm hired to run off-grid logistics for A-list clients. He looked nervous but resolute. "I signed 3 confidentiality agreements in 2015, he began. "But the subpoenas overrode them. So here I am." The courtroom hushed. Jordan was assigned to Estate 6, a nickname for a Diddy-owned property in Topanga Canyon, hidden from street view off-limits to Google Maps. He never saw parties, no events, just small guest lists, 10 people max, always arriving alone, always leaving late. There were 2 rules, Jordan said: no phones, no questions. Then he described something strange. There was a technician who handled the filtration system, he said. He never spoke, just checked sensors. I asked once why a regular bathtub needed industrial filters. The technician replied, "Because the water gets reused." That answer stuck with Jordan. He once saw Diddy's assistant enter the chamber room with gloves and a sealed kit. It wasn't a spa, he said. It looked like a setup. He saw towels labeled with dates, shelves of black stones, everything carefully documented. I didn't understand it back then, he admitted. But when Keanu testified, it clicked. I'd seen that black stone before. I'd held one in a plastic case. I thought it was just some branding gimmick. The prosecution asked him to describe the guests. I was never given names. But I recognize faces, he said. Famous ones. 2 had just gotten record deals. 1 disappeared from acting a month later. Jordan said something else that sent a chill through the room. I was once told, if anyone asks about the pool, say it's a sensory experience. Detox spa, whatever sells it. The truth, he believed, was much darker. That day, the court admitted 1 audio file. It came from a leaked backup of a phone belonging to an ex-assistant. The prosecution only played a 30-second clip. In it, Diddy's voice could be heard saying, "You don't have to believe in it. Just surrender. That's the point." The courtroom felt like it stopped breathing. Then came the headline nobody expected. A former network executive submitted an anonymous statement verified and admitted as evidence. It included the following excerpt. Talent is brought into the circle through bonding rituals. These are not metaphors. I have seen the bath. I have seen the drawers. I was told every yes gets rewarded. Every no gets rewritten. And just like that, the narrative was no longer about paranoia or coincidence. It was structured, intentional, and well protected. Later that day, 2 more witness subpoenas were announced. The names weren't made public yet, but speculation erupted online. One trending phrase dominated every social feed: the cost of saying no. It became more than a trial, it became a reckoning. Meanwhile, inside court, Keanu sat silently in the back row. He wasn't asked to speak again. He didn't need to. His words were now echoed by others. The jury had begun to shift. They no longer looked at Diddy the same way. Even his own attorneys seemed hesitant. Diddy no longer whispered to them. He barely moved. The defense tried to pivot, accusing the prosecution of narrative stacking and reputation sabotage. But the damage was done. The prosecution didn't need to argue. They just showed more receipts. Meeting logs, NDA timestamps, airfare paid for by shell companies tied to Diddy's LLCs, locations matched to Bathe nights. And then they presented a redacted ledger. One line made the courtroom sit upright. K. Reeves, declined immersion, status frozen. Keanu looked down. The final witness that day was a trauma specialist, Dr. Helena Strauss, brought in to explain the long-term effects of coercive environments. She spoke calmly, carefully, clearly. When someone is asked to perform something demeaning or symbolic, and when refusal results in disappearance or silence, she explained, that's not opportunity. That's manipulation. She continued, you don't need physical chains to create control. You just need consequences that everyone understands, but no one speaks aloud. The jury scribbled notes. The judge didn't interrupt once. And as court adjourned, a quiet ripple passed through the room. No one cheered, no one clapped. But something had changed. It wasn't about whether Diddy had done something wrong anymore. It was about how many people had helped him do it. Day 23 of the trial began with rain. Outside the courthouse was surrounded by media trucks. Protesters held signs, not just about Diddy, but about the industry, about power. No more silence. Legacy isn't worth your soul. Inside the courtroom, everything was quieter, more focused. Everyone knew the trial was nearing its end. But there was one final moment left. The prosecution requested to call one last rebuttal witness, a former studio liaison name withheld for security. They didn't appear in person. Instead, the court played a video deposition recorded under federal protection. The witness looked directly at the camera. I was in the room when Keanu's name came up, they said. He had been offered a role. The studio was interested. But someone from Diddy's team said, he's not in. Pull him out. They continued. No one asked why. No one challenged it. The room just moved on, like it was normal. Then came the closing statement from the prosecution. They didn't raise their voice. They didn't add drama. They just laid it out. This is not a story about superstition. This is not a misunderstanding. What we've shown is a method, a system that rewarded obedience and punished resistance. That turned legacy into a transaction, and that used silence as currency. They paused, then said, Mr. Reeves didn't lose his career. It was taken. As the prosecution sat down, the courtroom fell completely still. The defense declined to present any new witnesses. They had no closing remarks. Diddy sat motionless. No emotion, no eye contact. Then came something no one expected. Keanu stood, quietly, without being asked. The judge allowed it. He stepped forward, turned to the jury, and spoke directly. I'm not asking you to believe in conspiracies. I'm asking you to believe in patterns. He scanned the room. This didn't happen once. It happened over and over, and most of the time the people who said no, they just disappeared. He paused. Then softer. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. I thought I could just walk away. But walking away didn't work, because the silence followed me. He looked toward Diddy. And every time I lost a role, every time I was replaced, I remember that sentence, you'll come back. They always come back. He looked back to the jury. But I didn't. I came forward. That was all. He sat back down. The jury was dismissed for deliberation. It took less than 5 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood with the envelope in hand. The clerk read the verdict aloud. On all counts relating to coercive manipulation, enterprise abuse, and legacy obstruction, we find the defendant guilty. There was no outburst, no applause, just silence. Then a single pen drop. Diddy didn't react. He stared ahead, lips tight. His lawyers sat frozen. Keanu closed his eyes, just for a moment. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following month. Court was adjourned, and as the crowd exited, reporters scrambled to update headlines, but no one moved faster than the sketch artists. They had captured it the moment the system cracked. Outside, Keanu walked alone to a waiting black car. A reporter called out, "Do you feel vindicated?" Keanu turned just slightly, eyes calm. "No, but I feel clean." Then he got in, the door shut, and he was gone. Later that evening, one final image made its way online. A photo leaked from inside Diddy's vault during the federal raid. It showed a drawer labeled simply "rejected." Inside was a black stone, unworn, untouched. The caption read, "They didn't erase him, he walked away."